You're listening to the Mark Hatfield podcast.
You want to go fight some crime?
I got your number, I know your name, and I know
Hatfield trip, man. It's a fun ride.
Save all the jokes for the podcast. It looks like we are live. Wafik Nasralla, the funniest one-eyed Egyptian. Is that correct?
That's what they say.
And thanks for being here. Can you explain the Egyptian part? Because I'm pretty sure you're from Beacon Hill.
I was born in Egypt. I actually came to Canada, landed in Montreal on my 4th birthday, and then took a Greyhound to Ottawa. So that's how we actually...
That's pretty young to be taking a Greyhound. There's
that's
more people
how
involved.
how we measure how long we've been in Canada for my birthday.
You got here on your birthday?
Yeah.
What date's that?
October 7. So October 7, 1972, we landed.
Yeah.
In
your mom and your dad in a big suitcase?
My dad actually came a year earlier, and my mom, my sister, and I came. And my brother wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for the fact that we came to Canada and life was a lot better than it was in Egypt. So that's what they told me.
And he got a non-Egyptian name, right? Is that right? You're Wafik?
Yeah. Well, everybody pretty much. I mean, my parents are Mary and Sam. That's true. And my sister's Loris, but everybody calls her Lori. So. Yeah.
But the Wafik is what then? What?
It's actually my grandfather's name. So, but he died just before I was born. So I was named after his death, I guess.
No, it's a great name for sure. It's very memorable. And so, in Ottawa, I grew up, born and raised here.
Yeah.
And what high school did you go to?
Lester B. Pearson.
Lester B. Pearson. So you were literally down the road.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And tonight you're at Yuck Yucks?
Yeah, opening for Tom Green. Yeah.
Who's also from
Ottawa. He actually, he went to Gloucester High School.
Colonel By.
Colonel By. Okay.
No, I went to
bad.
Gloucester.
Well, I think some of his band went to Gloucester.
Oh,
can't remember the name of the band.
Yeah, they're
Check the OR or whatever.
The OR. Yeah, that was cool during the playoffs. Lester B. Pearson. So you're a funny guy there, making jokes? Or?
I think so. Yeah, I think that was definitely the start. There was something that I just never fit in, so I always liked making my classmates laugh. I always got a bit of a rush from that.
And you never fit in because your name was Wafik and you're Egyptian?
Well, and I was like 6'2" with an afro and glasses like bubbles.
Oh, the glasses. So the one-eyed part, born like that, or
no? That
was it's a very beautiful color. Your eye that doesn't work. It's been staring at me since you got here.
It's an accident from 11 years old, and the story I tell on stage is pretty much true. It's just I embellished it that it was a play fight, but it was actually a real fight.
With the kids from Gloucester High School?
Yeah. Well, no, it was a friend of mine. We were having a real fight, and then he threw my glasses in my eye, and that's how I lost it.
Really? So it's that whole thing, don't punch the kid with glasses?
Yeah, exactly. Well,
wow.
Yeah. And it's all fun and games till you lose an eye. That's all for me, man.
Until you land in Ottawa and you're Egyptian. That's fun and games till then. And what was the story about your brother and why he was born? Because your parents.
Egypt is not a really. It's a beautiful country, and it's really everything about it is great. But I mean, like my parents, they were happy. They had the millionaire family, that one son, one daughter. They were happy with that, and then they came to Canada, and then it just. I'm not going to say life was easier, but it was better, definitely.
Yeah.
And they had money, and they were still in love, so that's why there's like a 6-year gap between my brother and I.
Yeah, and what did your parents do when they got here?
My dad was a security guard. He actually was a security guard at the Montreal Forum back in the day. He saw bands like Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. So when he told me to turn that shit off, that's what he was talking about because he heard it.
Yeah. That's awesome. There's a unique thing because, I mean, when you're a security guard, it's not like any part of it. One time when I was playing professional football, a friend of mine, contacted me. He said, I need security. I need big guys for the Rolling Stones, basically a security guard. And,
wow.
And he's like, well, you get paid $50. And I was like, I don't even care. You don't have to pay me, obviously.
I guess they learned their lesson with the Hells Angels a couple of years before.
Yeah, just get some big dudes, right? And then, so we were in Quebec City. It was actually the night that the ice storm started. So whenever that was, 99 or something. And yes, sure enough, they hired me to stand right in front of the stage. Obviously, I didn't face the crowd. I stood there facing the Rolling Stones. Keith Richards, like right in front of me, basically playing the guitar for me, like looking at me, smiling at me.
That's awesome,
kind
man.
of creepy, but Mick Jagger right there and backstage hanging out, talking to them briefly. Not much, but unbelievable.
But that's cool. I mean, how many people in this world can say they actually, got a word in with Jagger?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Still, it's almost to the point where I can't even believe it happened.
Of course,
it's now 17, 18 years removed, and I'm like, really? So I have to tell the story even better. So, funny guy in high school. Oh, yeah.
My dad used to light cigarettes for Guy Lafleur back in the day. Right off the ice.
No.
Straight over, he had the lighter waiting for him.
That is so good, man. Wow. I heard stories of Guy Lafleur when I guess he was playing for the Nordiques, would have a smoke and be on the phone in between periods, and he never talk to anybody else.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a Montreal guy through and through, and I think he wasn't happy that he had to play in Quebec, but I mean, it was still paying the bills, so I can understand that.
And I mean, having a butt between periods when now guys are doing plyometrics between periods and drinking protein shakes. It's a different world. Although I imagine some guys Jagger and stuff they don't ride the bike for interviews after games and stuff sense.
Yeah, you see that on football games a lot. Keep your legs warm.
Oh yeah, the guys. Yeah, I always found it so hard. You go out there, you do your anaerobic bursts, whatever, and then you run off the field, and you sit there for sometimes 15, 20 minutes. I always found that a struggle for sure. And sometimes there'd be a turnover, and you have to just sprint right out on the field. And I mean, those times you found the adrenaline got you going, got you warmed up, and you're excited about it. But when you just had to dredge back out there after a long defensive series, that it was hard to get going,
and then
sure.
if the idiot quarterback throws an interception first play, you're like, fuck man, I just gotta sit down.
Oh yeah, you had to check yourself all the time, because you're on a team, right? And you're depending on.
I always want to know, do you guys eat during the intermission?
No, someone's mom will bring oranges.
No, because I always thought with that kind of using your energy that much, you'd have to eat something, but not too much, because you still have to go out and play again.
Yeah, I think the guys that I played around just needed to catch their breath, when there was no game. Well, no, I would say no. Pretty much water, hydrate, but to eat something, I don't think I've seen that. But here's one. Mo Elwinibi. When I was playing for the BC Lions, we'd be in the Sky Dome. Mo Elwinibi is a Canadian dude who went to Brigham Young. Brigham Young, won the Outland Trophy, best down lineman in the country. Went and played for the Redskins, won a Super Bowl. Just a great dude, and a great football player. Really knew the game really well, and a big, huge dude. And he made up for a lot of physical shortcomings at the end of his career with how well he knew the game, where he could be. And so this is closer to the end of his career, and we were in the Sky Dome, and I only learned this story later from my mom and sister.
So he went from Washington.
That's right.
Back to the CFL.
To BC. Yeah, and played in the CFL for a long time.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, in Saskatchewan. I'm pretty sure he lives in BC now. During the game, he was giving away footballs to kids. He'd always sit behind the bench on a Gatorade, pressed up against the wall where the benches was. I think he liked to talk to people and stuff like that. But this one game, and maybe other games, but I only found out because my family was there. They're he was giving away game balls to kids to get them the hot dogs, the Sky Dome hot dog. So he'd sit there, he'd munch a hot dog down, he'd give a kid a game ball, finish another one. Another kid was there, and he was, apparently he gave away 3 or 4 game balls just for hot dogs. What a dude. Funniest guy, man. Such a character.
Who's gonna confront him about it? Right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's, the CFL, the beauty of it is just there's so many unique little stories like that. It's just, one time, another Mo story would be we were in the playoffs, and it was cold, and we were practicing in the BC place. Everyone had sweats on that they gave you in your locker that day, sweatpants, sweat top, and so everyone looked the same out of practice, and it looked cool. We'd run out. We did our practice back and forth. Here's this big, huge dude. And then coach at the end of the practice is, all right, big game tomorrow, fellas, hit the showers. And he literally pointed towards the change room in BC Place. Everyone stood up, and everyone started walking. And Mo Elwinibi stood up, and he pulls his track pants down and his track top off. And he's wearing his street clothes underneath, and he starts walking the other way to the parking lot. He didn't care. He was just a funny dude.
I'm done.
Yeah, that's enough. I'm out of here. He did the whole practice with his street clothes on underneath the sweatpants.
That's awesome.
That is good. So comedy for you started early. You look different. You're from,
Oh God, yeah. I mean, back when I first started, those bubbles glasses were part of my face.
Yeah, that is.
It was a weird transition when I got into the normal ones. Like for a long time, I would wear the normal glasses except on show days, and I'd wear the big glasses because it was a crutch for sure. It was 10 minutes of my act about my face and my glasses, and then eventually I just sort of took it out, and then I would wear the glasses for the bit, just to show them, and then I did the Montreal Just for Laughs Festival. I didn't expect to do a spot. I was just watching. I went down to cheer on my friend Tracy McDonald, who was down. A whole bunch of us jumped into my mom's van. Rick Curry and a few other comedians. I think Christina Walkinshaw, Don Kelly. We all jumped in. We went down to Montreal to cheer her on. And then I had just done the Comedy Nest a couple of weeks before. So Gord, the guy that was running the show pretty much, he told me that DJ McCarthy, who was supposed to be on the show, couldn't make it. And he asked me if I wanted to do that spot. And I was like, of course.
Mm-hmm. How old were you at this point?
Shit, man.
But just started comedy 10 years in.
Yeah, maybe 7 years in. Okay. So maybe just about to hit 30.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, so of course I was excited just for laughs, right? And I didn't have my thick glasses, so I went up and I did everything, and I talked about it. And apparently, my brother watched my shows. He used to come to all my shows regularly, and he said the way I described the glasses was perfect, so that people would understand what I was talking about. And it went over really well without having to do the glasses. So eventually, I stopped carrying them around. It was just.
So that's the changes. I do like one of your jokes, and you still use it now. Is I have to drink till I see double.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorites for sure. So, talking about yourself is a nice way to ease yourself onto the stage, and I guess like when you first started, you said it's a great way just to, say things people are thinking. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I'm a big fan of, and I always teach this to anybody that listens: likability is huge, and the best way to become likable is to take shots at yourself before you go and take shots outside. That's a good one. And the really great thing about that is, when you do take shots at yourself, the people are more willing to go with you with whatever you talk about. I can become racist, and I have. I can become darker and edgier, and I have. You have to get that. Look, I know what I am. Let's get that out of the way. Now we'll talk about the other things.
Yeah. The problem is when you're perfect. Then, but everyone's got their own insecurities. You look at someone you don't necessarily think of it, and then when you point it out and talk about it, that's how I deal with sort of head injuries. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's
of
what
course,
I
exactly.
Do. And then it gives you the creative freedom to do pretty much anything. And just, come on.
The thing is that I like about when I watch you is that you're not. Everybody expects you to come across as like egotistical, and you're not. There's a very you do take shot like. I know I'm great kind of thing, but it's in a really funny way. It's in a very likable way. And that's what I've always liked about watching you on stage. It's like, yes, I've had head injuries and this and that, and it's great the way you do it. And I think a lot of times you don't even realize how likable you are because you're just doing your own thing.
That made me feel nice inside.
Yeah, I hope so.
And it's, I guess when you start out, and I'm very new in comedy, obviously, it's really hard to hear what people think of you on stage. You know what I mean? It's almost like in the ability, and you see people developing who are able to ask for that feedback and take the feedback, right? Like it's not just hearing it, it's also realizing that this is a person who's been there and seen that.
Well, yeah, but there's also, I think there's a lot of, and I hate to say it, but there's a lot of guys that'll attack rather than, like you got to even it out. There are some people that really need improvement, and tell them where they need improvement, but do it in a very tactful and nice way. Like you need to hold the mic closer to your mouth. You need to face the audience more. Don't play to the back of the room, and then. But there's also, tell them, hey, you got really great confidence. You got like good, stage presence. And tell them if you just tear them down, then they don't want to get feedback. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I always try to give people even feedback, because I don't want them to feel that. I think, to me, getting on stage is the biggest thing. The minute you step on stage, you've already put like 25% on the paper to me. Like I can actually say this guy's got balls or this chick's got, you know.
I completely agree. Anyone who gets up on stage and tries gets the respect that,
of course,
you know, for sure, and that's puts them in the same category as everybody.
And Howie used to hate that about me, because I would tell people, like, the first time they were on stage and they'd bomb their ass off, I'd tell them good job. I didn't say good set. I said good job.
Yeah, right.
There's a very big difference.
That is a big difference for sure. And at my first set at Yuck Yucks, lucky enough to be following Mike McDonald, and he came over and had tons of feedback for me. And same way, said something real nice at the start, made me think, oh my goodness, I can do this, and everything, you know. And then the stuff he said after made me feel, oh, okay, then I can approach those things.
Exactly, but it let you focus on the fact that, okay, so I have a good start, but I do need to improve myself. I don't like people that just shit on you. Like it's just not. It's not the way to do it.
My first shot, my first night at Yuck Yucks, Greg Houston was hosting, and he's big dude, and he had a tight shirt on that said, what did it say? Kiss me or something like that. And he made jokes of it the whole night, whatever. And Mike McDonald went up, and I had to follow him. And obviously a tough task, especially your first night. And I got up there, and I looked at Greg, and I kissed him. I kissed him twice, and there was total laughter, applause and this is my first time, right? So obviously get lucky. I got totally lucky. And then Mike McDonald mentioned that. He goes, you know, you went for it. It worked. Great job. And then he started saying, and actually this is to do with being likable. He said the same sort of thing. You got to be likable. They got to connect with you no matter in the first 30 seconds, right? He said, anytime you say a derogatory joke, then you should put in somebody else's voice. Yeah. Right? Like exactly. I had a joke about cheerleaders, and then the punchline, was like having sex with all of them instead of none of them, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And he's like, that's a great joke, but it makes people think less of you. Put it in your teammate's voice. Yeah. Right? Yeah, and I started doing that, and that's totally exact sort of thing. So how old are you when you started comedy? 24. It's funny. I was actually just thinking about that this morning. Yeah. I don't even know why. I was just trying to do the math, I think. But yeah. So it's been about 23 years I've been doing comedy now. Yeah. So you've been doing it 24, or you started 23 years doing it. Yeah. I started when I was 24. Okay. It's the only thing about comedy that I kind of regret. Well, there's two things I regret. I wish I started earlier, and I wish I never smoked weed. Ever. Why is that? Really slowed down any chance. And I probably, pissed away a lot of really potentially good sets. And I think that in a lot of ways it held me away from achieving like headliner status earlier, and maybe even like a few festivals and things, So you'd be on stage high and you wouldn't remember what you had to say? No, I didn't have the energy. Like one thing that when you're on stage, if the crowd isn't digging you, you can at least shift gears. Mm-hmm. I couldn't shift gears. I was high. That was me the whole set. So it affected your performance. Yeah, sometimes. God, yeah. And that was something that was because you were high all the time, or you just couldn't stop on game day? Or? I mean, and the funny thing is, when I went to England and I didn't smoke weed at all, and the performances just kept getting better, and more important shows were coming up, and I was just getting better. There were no nerves. It was just excited to be doing it. And I came back to Canada. I just started back on the weed, and I'm like, "What the fuck did I do that for, man?" Like, really? So you just didn't smoke there because you couldn't get any, and then... Well, it was that, and it was 20 pounds a gram. And so did you drink, or what? I drank, but I mean, I didn't. I've always been like 2 or 3 beers a night kind of a guy, and then certain nights you go overboard. So in England, like there was only one night that I really went overboard. And but other than that, I only 2 or 3 pints a night. And now you don't smoke. And now I don't drink. How long have you been doing that? Drinking's been over 2 years. Smoking cigarettes and weed weed has been over a year, and cigarettes. It's been about a year, but I have one every now and then. Yeah. Yeah, I used to see you when I first started with those. I forget. I don't know, the vapes. Yeah. That's been gone. And I was sure you had pot in those. I thought that guy had balls. He's getting high in the club. Before. Oh man, I bet I could have if I was that brazen. But that's. So you started when you're 24, and Angelo Tsarakis was on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and he said his early goal was to be able to do it full time, to make that your job? Was that the same sort of thing that you thought when you first started, or?
Yeah, but I mean, it's my focus has changed. There's when I first got into it, I was all gung ho about getting on Letterman and getting a sitcom and maybe into movies, and then it changed to now maybe just doing theaters and having people come specifically to see me.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I mean,
awesome.
I think that would be the life I'd like, just to pick and not to have to do the shitty little rooms anymore, and just even though I love doing them still.
Yeah.
The one thing that when I first started comedy, I made sure I wanted an act that worked everywhere. Like I watched Drew Carey talk about when he first started. He had a road set that he would headline and a club set, and they were two completely different things. And I was sitting there going, I'd rather just have the one set.
Yeah.
And that's what I focused on. And I think in a lot of ways I've got it. Like I'm not going to brag, but I mean I like my act, and it works in small town Cornwall or big city Toronto.
How long can you do right now?
The longest I've done is about an hour and 20. I think if pushed, I could probably do 2 hours, but I think I'd be bored of myself after a while.
How do you write? Would you sit down and write every day, or when it comes to you?
It's actually talking to people. My brother and I used to go on long rides, and I would just tell him the ideas, and then I'd just riff on it while he was driving. And whatever he laughed at, I knew the crowd would laugh at, so I would keep it that way. And I think that's the reason why I've gotten lazy. I really don't talk to a lot of people anymore. And I just haven't. Like the other day, I was like I said, I bought the hoverboard for my daughter, and I was talking to my niece, and she says, how much did it cost? I said $400, and she says, man, that's a lot. And I said, I know. I really, really want her to hurt herself. Just to get some free Medicare, like something,
That's
balance it out,
Yeah.
$400 for that, $300 for a cast. Okay, good.
That's good. So that's in your act, I hope,
It's going
right?
to be in the act now,
I
yeah.
hope so. That's amazing. That's so good. That's what, I mean, when you talk, I mean, there's something about a joke, right? There's what we expect to happen, and something else happens that makes us laugh. But there's something about it when it's a true story.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like you can tell.
Yeah.
Right? It's pretty hard to act, about saying a joke, something that didn't really happen.
It's funny because, especially with you, because when I watch you, I know when you're telling a joke and when you're telling a family story. Mm-hmm. Like when you talk about your son in that accident, your voice is very different. There's a more reflective kind of dad coming out than a comedian.
Yeah.
And it's really, and it's still like there's no difference in the joke, like the people still follow you. But from a comedian's point of view, I can actually see the difference. And it's not a bad thing, definitely. But I can always tell, and I know that's what you're prouder of, those real life stories.
That's what I look for, and that's what I want my comedy to be. I mean, the first couple of years I've been in comedy, and I'm just trying to, like you say, get people to like you and then laugh at jokes, right? And then now, what you need, and this is a tough part, because when you go for an open mic comic, when you got 6 minutes you want to develop more, like how do you do that? You know what I mean? Because when you go, it's really hard to go up there and work on a bit that isn't the same kind of ha laugh every 30 seconds. See,
that's the thing. I mean, I got this amazing story that I want to do, like a one-man show, but I've never done it on stage, and I got this incredible hour-and-a-half story that about 5 or 7 people have heard, like on long drives. I tell them this. And it's something I'd really like to put on stage. I don't have, and I can't just force people to sit in a club and try, and we're going to try something, So I don't know how to do it. And I completely understand what you mean, because I can't do it on a 6-minute open mic because it's an hour and a half.
So, okay, this is really interesting to me because I'm a motivational speaker, and I go around and I do my hour-long story. And when Daryl Lennox was in town a year ago, he said, I think on a Wednesday, I was hosting the open mic, and he was there, and I did my normal set, and then he said, you're hosting for me this weekend. Those are funny jokes. I don't want you to use any of them. I want you to tell your story. And so I had one night to get ready for this. I came home and I tried to punch it up, as they say, add punches to it, and jokes and here and there. And he's like, just do the story, man. You know what I mean? And it's because that's his brand of comedy too, right? Like he goes up and he talks about losing his eyesight and the bad things that have happened to him. And so how do you go from taking your story and like are you putting punchlines in this story? Like, what's your story about?
The story is
Is it?
It's kind of like my life. Get my first and second divorce.
You've had 2 divorces?
Yeah, man. And that's something that a lot of people don't know about. Like it's my life to this point, and that's what it was supposed to be called.
That gives me goosebumps right there.
Yeah.
Your life to this point. So it's about, and this is obviously what's made you the person you are.
Oh, there's a really great story about something I did very bad that a long time ago when I was doing comedy here in Ottawa, and there's a situation that happened at the club that got me suspended from Yuck Yucks for the whole summer, and that's the starting point of the story, and then what it led up to.
You need to tell the story.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
Did you feel me move closer to you? And like all these people in here, they're like, we're listening.
It's well, you know what? Maybe I'll talk to Howie and see if some Sunday I could just do the story, and I'll just tell people, come in, I'm telling something, and I hope you like it. You know, no promises, and we'll see what happens.
That's amazing.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, you got to. I'm like, I need to hear it. All these people need to hear it now.
I hope so. It's it was. I've told 7 people in my life, and they all think it's just an amazing story.
Can you give us more of a hint?
Oh, I'd rather not.
Yeah?
Okay. And I mean, like the one thing about it is it never comes out the same way twice.
Yeah, that's the beauty of when you tell a story, right? Each time is unique, and that's
it's exactly the same story, and it's a true story, and there's no embellishment at all. I'm not proud of what I did to get myself suspended, but I'm proud of the way I handled it.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing, right? And that's what I want this podcast to be about, is that we go through life, we make these mistakes, and it's how we react to them that determines what's going to happen, right? I mean, we're all faced with tough times, struggles, bad things that happen because of what we do and because of outside things. And then if we can just take those things and use them as the reason why that we achieve what we want to achieve, right? So you had something happen in the club. How long had you been doing comedy? Were you
at that point? It was about 4 years.
4 years,
yeah.
And you were banned from Yuck Yucks.
Yeah, but you know, it's funny what happened. Well, I'm not going to tell you the exact what happened, but I admitted I did something. So Howie didn't want to suspend me, but he suspended me, and out of that, I got a little tour of Eastern Ontario. I got to do the Nubian show. Dave Chappelle stops in and does a set.
Come on.
I'm serious. This is all while I'm suspended. Howie was really great about it. Like, he didn't want to. He really didn't want to. But he had no choice. Like, it was... I'd rather not say what it is.
Yeah, that's fine.
But anyways, so he got me a little tour, and it was really, really cool. I got to go all over.
Howie did that for you?
Yeah, he did. Because he didn't want me... I was starting to middle back then. So I middled Kitchener, which was an unbelievable weekend. And then I did a night in Niagara Falls. I did a night in Hamilton. And then I did the Nubian show in Toronto. And Dave Chappelle was actually filming Half Baked. They were filming most of it in Toronto.
Yeah.
And he just stopped by the Nubian show. And so I'm on, and set of my life. Absolutely just an amazing set. And then there was 2 other people on. And like, I really took the room by a storm. It was great. And even my friend Gavin Stevens told me later that Dave was watching my set, and he's like, "This guy's fucking funny."
No.
Yeah.
That's got to be in everything you have. Dave Chappelle quote.
Yeah. I should. I don't know. And then Dave Chappelle went up. He did his thing, and I've already heard of him, but I mean, like, I'd never seen him live
to
like
be in
that.
The room.
And be in a room with him. And I actually shook his hand and told him I love his stuff. Like, it was unreal, for sure. And this is like years before he became the superstar he is now.
And you're 4 years into comedy.
Exactly, yeah.
And this is you're faced with something that anybody could look at and go, "I'm done. If Yuck Yucks has banned me, I'm done." Right?
Wait a minute. Because that was the year my dad passed away too. It was a really crazy year, and that's why this story is so incredible. I lost things, and I gained things, and I got married. My first marriage, it's everything. It was just one fucked up summer.
What year is it? Summer of
2007.
No, not 2007.
No, 1997.
97.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So 97, everything's going wrong. I mean, I guess the marriage is not wrong.
Well, the marriage came out of that. Like, I got married the year after.
Okay.
And then it was, there's a little bit of I talk about her a little bit. She was more of a 3-page chapter in my life, really.
Yeah.
You know, like, to be blunt, she was, it was it happened and it's gone.
So, okay. So you've had something go on at the club, your band, like I said, and a lot of people would say that's it for comedy, right? Your band, I'm gone. But your amazing, great things happen from that, right? You go on a tour, you perform in front of Chappelle. Did your material change from that banning or that event that happened?
Actually, no. My act, the only thing that really changed my act was 9/11.
Okay.
Because I went from a brown guy doing comedy to, you know, a potential terrorist, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, like, one night it changed. I was lucky because I was out in the Maritimes, and I didn't feel the impact of it until I came back to Ottawa about how exactly, like, how the world changed its view on Arabs. Because out east, like, everybody was still, you know, cool. And then I got back, and it just felt a little weird. And then I realized, you know, I can't do my happy kind of, you know, let's all laugh at everything comedy. I had to address this issue, and I did. You know, but I still found a way to make it funny. You know, that I was just this regular guy before, and now because some jackass, you know, or a group of jackasses did something horrible, you know, you can't lump us all in. We did the big tour with We Ain't Terrorists. Did that with Dave Marhaj, Rasul Samji, and a few other really great comedians. And that was a really fun tour. And we used to sell it out because it was very poignant, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Who was in the audience?
Well, I mean, like, everybody that went to the shows, like, we had, we combined it with Jewish people in I don't know how or why, in Montreal, but we ended up working with a few other, we had a Jewish community out for it. And in Ajax, we had a lot more Arabs, I guess. It wasn't sold out. That was the only show that didn't sell out. We were shocked by that. But Toronto, we had a lot of people there. We did radio station interview after interview. It was like, it was a big deal. It was really, really weird. And we were just like, this is just us doing our set. We addressed being, you know, called terrorists and then moved on. But it was just so relevant at this point in society that we wanted people to know that just because we're Arab doesn't mean like we're all bad. Like,
once again, that's a sort of an obstacle that happened. You learned to react to it, and you made the most of it. And that was because of 9/11 and because you looked like a terrorist.
Yeah.
What's going on in the world now? Who's taking advantage of the things that are happening in the world right now?
Well, I think now the world is just such a PC pile of garbage now. I mean, like I liked the last Dave Chappelle special, and I think those are the things you got to talk about now. It's like this bullshit millennial garbage that they're gonna get their asses stomped when they get into the real world, and I mean, like, mommy and daddy, and there's so much weakness in society now. The transgender issue isn't even an issue. I don't understand why everybody cares. Like, live your life and let others live their own lives. And if it really is that big a deal, which washroom they use, then you really need to look at your life, because there's bigger issues than that. And it's just, I don't know. It's finding the way to do it without being offensive. You say anything now, like even like, I'm not Muslim, but if I say something about Muslims, all of a sudden, like, it's no longer an observation. I'm an Islamophobe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then if you say anything that, like, I'm not gay, and if I say something about gay people, I'm a homophobe. Like, we can't even talk about it. It's just, it's almost insidious that we can't even have our own. It's an opinion-free world now. It's ridiculous.
I mean, I completely don't have the energy or the time to invest in that, and I stay completely away from it. But I do remember sort of when Trump, I guess it was running for office or won the seat or whatever, that you on social media started taking a point that, and what was the point? Was it? The
point was that everybody shit on him, that he wasn't going to be a good president, and then he did 3 things right off the bat that I loved. You know,
which,
like the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Okay, yeah.
Out. there's more to it than just a Trans-Pacific Partnership. And a lot of people that were, well, if Trump doesn't like it, then there's something, then we want this. And it's like, no, you don't. Because there's a lot of things in there about censorship, about controlling the internet, about, taxing us and on several different things that are hidden in it. And that's why I was all over it. When he said he wanted out, I was happy. People shit on me because you're not supposed to be a pro-Trump guy. But he did something good. It didn't even matter if I was pro-Trump or not. I saw him do something good.
Yeah. So the people that were shitting on you, I mean, to me, I follow social media carefully, and we've had people on here say that how important it is to not let your feet go black and to post regularly. And so here you are all of a sudden taking this, you're the very nicest guy in Ottawa comedy besides Don Kelly. Sorry. Always got that smile. And then on social media you come out and start clearly picking fights. Was it picking fights?
I wasn't picking fights though. All I did was I said he wants out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That's a home run.
Yeah.
And everybody jumped on me.
They sure did.
But they didn't. Do they know what the Trans-Pacific Partnership is? No, they didn't.
Sounds
they just
important.
Yeah, exactly. And Trump doesn't like it.
Yeah.
I lost friends out of it. Certain people. I don't know if it's changed now, but I know at least one comedian who doesn't want to work with me ever again.
Really? Who?
Yeah. Oh, Martha Chavez. But I mean,
okay, she's out there on Facebook too, right? She's controversial or whatever, posts regularly. I've never met her. Okay, so let's get a little bit back to your life story. You've been kicked out of or banned from Yuck Yucks for the summer, and which is the slowest time of year, right?
Yeah.
And given a tour.
The problem was back then there was only Yuck Yucks though. We didn't have a lot of open mics.
Okay.
We didn't have Absolute Comedy. That was the only room, and I couldn't even go hang out there. So I mean, for the first little, so that's why
you didn't play at Flapjacks, did you?
No. It's actually kind of funny. And so what happened was I did this little tour, worked with Chappelle, and then my mom and dad were going to Egypt. My dad was really sick. I didn't even think about it much, and they said, "Well, if you're suspended, why don't you come to Egypt?" And I just said, "Yes, absolutely." I had a job. I was making decent money. I said, "Yeah, for sure." I did not know that was going to be the last time I'd see my dad. And it was. I mean, I look back at it now, and that was one of the things I said was there was something meant to be about that, because my dad and I had grown apart. I was never that athletic, and I was doing comedy. And I mean, he became supportive of my comedy eventually. But I went to Egypt, and I was only there for 2 weeks, and I made him laugh, and I saw him smile. And then I came back to Canada, and he died. And I mean, I got one last time with him. I would have really hated myself if I had the opportunity to go to Egypt, and I said no, and then my dad died.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a crazy story. There's some people that have cried at some parts, and there's some people that have laughed all the way through it. I really wish I could do it on stage,
Yeah, that's very powerful. I hope this motivates you to take the next steps towards that, into a matinee show, on a Sunday, like you said.
Yeah,
that would be huge, powerful, for sure. And there should be more of that. There should be more people getting up there and telling their stories.
Well, maybe what I'd do is I'd take the room for an hour and a half, and I'd let 2 guys or 2 people come up on stage and do like a 15-minute story if they want to do it. And then I'll try to do the story in an hour.
Dude, I got a 15-minute story.
Okay.
Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So your father passes away, and how does that change?
Then I got married.
And you got married again, or
no? This is the first marriage.
Okay.
I met her while I was visiting my parents in Egypt. And sadly, my dad said to me before I left, he said, "Don't marry her." But my mom said, "Yeah." And then my mom said, "Marry her." And at that point, my mom was brokenhearted. So I wanted to do something. And my mom's one of these people, you're better off doing it her way, fucking it up, and then walking away from it rather than never doing it and having her hold it over your head for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you gotta listen.
And
to
that's
Mom.
totally what she would have done.
She wanted grandchildren.
Yeah.
But did you give her any?
Not with that one, no.
No. And then, so how does this change your comedy now? Your father's passed away, and you're married, and can you still go out to clubs when you're married like that and do the comedy?
I was touring. Like I said, she was a 3-page chapter of my life. I loved her, but we never saw eye to eye, and she was insanely jealous, and I don't understand why. I'd never given her a reason to be. And we started the marriage started in the hole, so it just never got out.
Where does it go from there? So you leave her, or the marriage ends?
Leave her, then
still in Ottawa?
Yeah, and then I left my job with the government. They gave me this really nice buyout. Went on tour of Canada for 5 years.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Toured around constantly.
That's
for
all I did.
5
Yeah,
years.
my house was whatever hotel room I was staying in.
Who were some of the people you played with back then?
Oh man, well, back then I was going to Calgary, and there was people like Matt Billen and Peter Anthony and Brett Martin that were always there. That they were about to make their move to Toronto and Vancouver, and then finally going to Vancouver and seeing that beautiful city for the first time and playing the Yuck Yucks there. Then moving out and flying out to they opened up the East Coast, and they had clubs in Halifax and Moncton for a little while.
Were you in Vancouver when Daryl Lennox was there?
I think so, but I think he was living there, but I think he was on tour the time I was there.
Okay.
Man, one of the best tours ever was playing Vancouver with Rouse, Jason Rouse back then, and that was in my party mode, and he was in his party mode, so we were a lethal combination. It was pretty good.
That sounds inviting. And you've 5-year tour.
Yeah, at least.
And so, what were your goals? Or maybe not. Your goals were day to day, right? Like, let's make a living of this. Let's have fun.
Yeah.
You're in your.
I got rid of all my credit cards. I had no debt. So just basically, I could live check to check.
Yeah.
And I was never getting ahead, which is fine. I didn't care.
Yeah.
But I wasn't destitute, and I wasn't broke, and I wasn't I wasn't borrowing money. I was living within my means, and I was still doing well.
Have you been back to Just for Laughs since the first time?
I played it one more time in the homegrown competition. That's been about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good. And so you've toured, done Comedy Now. Your Comedy Now special. When was that?
That's about
That's an hour, right? Was it an
no,
hour?
I did an hour and a half. Well, I did about an hour and 10-minute recording, and it cut it down to half an hour. And I think Millen wanted me to do another half-hour special sooner than later. It's unfortunate that it went off the air, but there was a few things that I still do from those days that never made it to air. So I was hoping to get back on there. But yeah, it was funny. I was out west, and Millen was out, and he was checking out comedians, and I was on the short list, and I really wanted it that year. But he said, "You're on the short list for this year, but you're definitely in next year."
Mm-hmm. This is the Just for Laughs.
This is for Comedy Now.
Comedy Now. Okay. Sorry.
And then, I was bummed out that I didn't do it, but then I thought to myself, this is going to be even better because I got an act that I like. But imagine next year when I actually do this. Yeah. And it was great. And it's the one video I can actually watch of myself. I hate watching myself. Yeah. But I love, that's the one set that I can sit there anytime it comes on TV. I'm like, I'll watch it.
Often.
Yeah. And it's gotten I've got a lot of praise from comedians I respect. A lot of comedians told me that was one of the best Comedy Now specials ever. And that makes me feel really good. And yeah, and I guess that's probably why I can watch it, because I'm very proud of it.
Mm-hmm. That's who were some of the comedians you respect?
Oh, Don Kelly, Dave McConnell, but the big names. Sean Collins, people in Canada. The good ones that I really like. A lot of them have moved to England now. Craig Campbell's there.
What's the attraction to England?
Well, there was a big comedy boom, and I think the thing about England is, it is kind of like a mecca for the best comedians. And if you really want to be a pure stand-up comedian, that's the place to go. Because you go to New York, you can stay stand-up comedian, but you never really make a ton of money. And then if you go to LA, you end up in TV and movies. And the thing about England is you can make more than a living doing comedy, and they, though there's people like Tom Stade and some other guys that are doing theaters now. Bobby Mayer is killing it. He's got his own reality show.
Yeah. And they started in Ottawa.
They started in Canada.
Yeah.
Bobby's from I guess technically Toronto because he started in London, but like Tom Stade was Vancouver and then moved to Toronto and then he moved to England and I mean they never looked back. Sean Collins, he was just here a little while ago.
Yeah.
And he's making a big name for himself in England now.
Yeah, I think I opened for him.
I think
in fact,
so.
I know I did. And have you ever thought of going there? Like, where does your comedy career go from now? You're a young guy.
I don't know, man. I mean,
super handsome.
Not young anymore. I'm gonna be 49 in October, dude. I mean, like.
Well, I mean that's pretty young, right?
Yeah,
That's
I guess.
20 years
But
of
I mean,
stand-up ability left, and I mean literally standing up because.
I don't know.
Yeah.
'Cause, the road isn't as appealing as it once was. I don't like crashing on couches now. I don't smoke pot and I don't drink. So the party kind of isn't there for me. I would go out on tour and I definitely would do shows if people paid me the right amount and took care of like travel. I mean, I don't want to sit on a crash on a couch anymore.
Yeah.
And I love the people that put me up and put up with me. Like, like great people like Mark Walker or can't believe I'm blanking on his name.
It's because you're
Stan.
not high.
Stan. Wow, I wish I could remember his last name.
Stanhope. Doug Stanhope.
Stan Thompson.
Stan Thompson.
Probably one of the best guys ever. And I mean, a lot of people might hear that name and go, what?
Yeah.
No, one of the realest, nicest guys. And he put me up. Mark Walker put me up. Matt Billen and a few other people. But I mean, Casey Corbin was huge. When he first moved to Toronto, I was at his place every second weekend. He was awesome.
That's he worked at the Lone Star.
Yeah.
For years.
Yeah, but I mean, he's
fun.
a comedian that's grinding it out. And he deserves a lot more respect than he gets because that guy, a new album every 2 years. It's crazy. He's a great writer,
Yeah. He's and he's social media. I mean, I see him all the time.
He's all
for sure.
over it.
Yeah.
He's always got video clips going up, and he's always got. I don't see him as much. I don't know if he's just busy on the road or if
All I know is what I see on social media.
Yeah.
He's, podcasting about wrestling quite a bit. He's opening for big names. And he seems
if you ever
to
get a chance to hear his Undertaker story, that's a great story.
Is it a bit or a story?
No, it's a story. He did it at the how Yucks here in Ottawa gets wrestlers every now and then.
Yeah.
And he opened for $1 Billion Man, and it was about he did the 15-20 minute version of the story. It was hysterical and completely
Undertaker story?
Yeah.
That was my favorite wrestler when I had about a 2-3 year window. I followed wrestling, went to wrestling here when they came to town, and that was my guy, Undertaker, for sure. I'm just writing it down because I want to ask him when he's on this podcast to tell his Undertaker story. I love the wrestling crowds.
Yeah, me
They're
too.
there to have fun, to yell and scream, and they love comedy, right?
Yeah.
Like anytime a wrestler, it's a great mix. Is the wrestlers and yucks for sure?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I mean, it's anytime you get one of them. I was gonna say something crazy, but no, I'll hold back about the wrestling crowd. But a lot of fun for sure. You've opened for them, and
I've gone down, and I've never actually got a chance. I mean, I got a story about meeting. Ric Flair that I wanted to do on that show, but that's I don't have a lot of wrestling material myself.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, you just tell jokes, right? You
Yeah,
do
exactly.
a couple things off the
Yeah,
top
yeah,
about
exactly.
wrestling, and it's like your 9/11 experience, where you
Yeah.
tell them you're not terrorists, and then you take a left turn into your stuff that gets laughs for sure. So okay, where we were
Second marriage now.
Second marriage, okay.
Yeah.
So and that's
Back in Ottawa for a bit.
Okay. Oh yeah,
And
you
then
toured Canada,
Yeah.
right? Did you tour the States at all, or?
No, just Canada, really.
Okay.
I think I went to the Dominican. No, the Dominican was while I was married to the second.
Did you go to Dominican and do comedy?
Yeah, they used to do. Yucks used to do shows.
What?
In the winter? Yeah, you'd go down. You'd fly in on Saturday. You'd do a show on Monday and Thursday, then do another show Monday, Thursday. Then you'd fly out Saturday.
I thought Pembroke was exotic. You'd go to the okay.
I went to the Dominican and did shows. You're basically performing for British and Canadian people because that's all the people that would stay at the resort, and it was a great experience. But I can honestly say, like, the first week was great. I was there with my wife, and it was nice having somebody to hang out with. And then but the headliner, he was there by himself. And then the next week, while my wife was back in Ottawa, his girlfriend came, so I was hanging alone,
Yeah.
and it was really fucking boring.
It can get lonely fast.
Yeah, man, like,
when
I
everybody
mean,
else
yeah,
is going for a romantic walk.
Exactly, and I'm in this beautiful paradise, and I'm just getting drunk by myself.
That's good. So, wow, that's incredible. How many years did they do that for?
They did it for about 5 or 6 years, maybe 7. I did it once. Some guys were lucky enough to do it like every year or every couple of years.
Yeah. Was that a once a year thing or weekly in the winter?
It ran for the whole winter,
Was
like
it-
from I guess December. Well, maybe not December. Maybe they did the first week of December, and then back in January, February, March.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was Howard or
No, that was
head
the
office?
Toronto head office.
That's
yeah.
cool. That sounds really interesting. We should think about that. Or maybe
Well,
not-
the girl that did it, the lady that ran the show, she was a big fan of comedy,
Yeah.
and she was from Toronto, and she had approached Yuck Yucks herself, and that's how that happened.
Ah, that's good.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff happens. For sure. Yuck seems to be branching out quite a bit. There's a show tonight in, where is it? Petawawa?
Yeah,
We did Petawawa, you and I, didn't we? Or,
yeah, we did a long time ago.
Or we did that brewery. Remember that brewery?
Or the
on that-
brewing in Cobden.
Terrible. But a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Everyone was receptive.
Yeah, it was.
Beer. Remember Farmer's Daughter? That was the beer that, you don't drink, but I had your share.
That's right.
And it was, the waitress, it was their opening night. The kitchen was like right beside us.
Yeah,
One time during my set, the waitresses were walking right in front of the stage.
that's right.
Which is
we were on the
distracting.
stage. It was a
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah,
we were
on the
standing in front of the
floor.
drums.
And then the one time they go by singing Happy Birthday.
Yeah.
Those are not the theater shows that
No.
we try to get, right?
that's
And
right.
So you're in comedy, second marriage, in Ottawa. You're back in Ottawa. Okay, you've been touring and you're a headliner now. When did you become a headliner?
Yeah, I guess I started headlining. It wasn't consistent, I don't think, at that point. That came after the second divorce for sure.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was a better time in my life. I was making a little bit more money then. And then again, disappeared on the road after the second divorce.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you wanted to get out of town, or that's where the
Well,
comedy took you?
Yeah, it's both. I wanted to go, I just wanted to get on the road. I just didn't want to be in Ottawa after the second divorce. And I lost my daughter with it. She moved with her mom. So I just didn't want to.
That's the daughter that's
Yeah,
upstairs
and I-
having pie with my kids.
That's right. And I did start hiding behind a lot of drugs and a lot of different drugs and some alcohol. And it took me a little while to get rid of some of it. And then, other things stayed, but it's the weed that killed me, man.
Really?
Yeah.
So there was harder drugs than the weed, but you think the weed was
the weed
the
is
problem.
what killed it. Yeah.
And who when you're in that world and you're looking out, you don't realize. Who did someone say something to you, or was it like a morning you woke up and went, "That's it"? How does that?
Well, I think realizing that I was, spending my money on less important things, like when instead of food, I was getting cocaine.
Yeah,
Like why?
yeah, yeah.
Waking up one morning and going, I needed that money for rent. What am I
Yeah.
going to do now?
Was the cocaine to replace the
It was just
marriage?
it was to dull the sting of everything.
Yeah,
I did clean myself up. As much as you can, and I did, and I stayed with the weed, the cigarettes, and alcohol. But and I was getting drunk more often than not. And yeah, you just sort of one day wake up and you realize that your life, for me, it was like when I really cleaned up was about 3 years ago. I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm in my 40s. I want to see my kids grow up, and I lost a lot of time on the road from my daughter, and I don't want to lose that with my little boy now. And I'm in a much better place. I'm in a relationship that I couldn't be happier. Jen is the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. And she's been through all of it. She's been through, we were together 7 years, like the tail end of my drug days and the partying days. And then now, still standing beside me, even though I'm not the fun guy I used to be.
You remember that Friends episode where the guy was drunk all the time?
That's
and they
right.
loved him,
Yeah,
and
Fun
it's
Bobby.
Was it Fun Bobby?
And then he wasn't so fun when he didn't drink.
Remember, where'd Fun Wafik go? I
Yeah,
haven't
yeah.
seen him in a while.
Oh man, I mean that was my reputation all across Canada. I was known, I think, primarily as the party guy, but I mean I was still known as a funny guy too.
Just my luck. I met you after that
Yeah.
time.
Well, we did drink a few together, but yeah.
So it seems to me, outside looking in, that if it all got better, sort of when you met the girl you're with now.
Yeah.
Maybe is that the reason you met someone?
I think so,
that,
and I think seeing my little boy and saying I want better for him and I want to give him more and I want to be around him more.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I don't really tour that much. I mean, I'll go to Montreal, but I'll drive back and forth at night.
Yeah.
I won't go anywhere that I have to stay overnight unless, like I said, somebody makes it worth my while.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have to be very much worth my while for that to happen. But I don't see that happening. It's just, so I'm happy where I am now. I mean, I'll just keep writing. I'll keep doing my thing. And if something huge comes out of it, great. But I just still really enjoy making people laugh.
Mm-hmm. It's a very powerful thing for sure. And I got to tell you about your social media posts. My favorite thing is when you post pictures of you and your kids and or your girlfriend or wife. Those are what I like the most. You know what I mean? That's what gives. They say likability.
Yeah.
I think on social media, if you're just likable, you're just true, you're just yourself. You know what I mean? And is that the same way you are on stage? Are you the same person?
I try to be. I think there's an embellishment for sure.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I stretch it a little bit. And like I said, sometimes I say things that I would never really say off stage. I'm not racist off stage, but I have fun with it on stage for sure.
Yeah. I think, the comedy club, like when you go to do comedy at a club or a place that's not a comedy club, there's definitely a difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's a safe place, a comedy club, where you can go and you can be that sort of slightly different person, say something to get a reaction in the opposite direction. And then one thing I see, and all this Netflix, and it's great for comedy, it's doing a huge thing. People watch it, and they don't understand that it's just supposed to be said there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and even like my kids will be, I'll catch them watching like the Netflix stand-up thing, and then I hear them saying something, and I'm like, where'd you get that? And they're like, wow, we saw it on TV in the comedy world, you know what I mean? And I'm like, to me, it's such a unique, special spot at comedy club where anything can be said. That's why you can't record, people there and stuff, because that's out of context, right?
Exactly. And there's a lot of times where I think something is in the moment that wouldn't necessarily be funny outside of that moment.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly. Right. And you have to be there and feel it and hear the chair squeaking and, the heat of the room.
Yeah.
And the fact there's a Sens
Somebody-
game on upstairs.
Yeah, exactly. And hearing the stomping when they score, and
Right.
or something happening at the bar and a tray of drinks falls.
Yeah, that's all part of the fabric of being there in live comedy,
Exactly.
right? And it's slightly skewered when you see it on TV, and it's not. That is stand up for sure,
Yeah.
and it's comedy for sure, but it's different than actually going out there and
Yeah.
being part of it.
Well, that's because it's a best case scenario.
Yeah,
There's
it
not
is.
going to be a tray of drinks falling during that. There's not going to be. I think sometimes if there is some heckling, it's either staged or just some stupid idiot that doesn't get it.
Yeah. Well, how much of your act is like? Do you feel comfortable talking to the crowd, or this is?
That's actually the one thing I'm still not comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm in the moment. There are moments where I can do it where I'm in it, but like I don't plan on it when I'm off stage. I don't plan on it when I'm like. I have these comedians that say, "Well, I got to do a half hour, but I only got 20 minutes, so I'll talk to the audience." I'm not like that.
I always count on about 20 minutes of
Yeah.
talking to people, right? That's for me the best nights I've had. Actually, one night you were there, we did that lawyer place.
Oh, yeah.
and all those lawyers, right? And I went in and I just saw a room full of Jewish lawyers celebrating Christmas, and I go, I got to talk about this right off the top.
Oh,
and I
yeah,
don't know
of
if you
course.
remember, but it was one of the best sets I ever had, and I didn't do
I
any.
had to follow it, man. Come on.
remember-
Of course, I remember it.
So I did no material.
No, you hit them with a ton of energy, and you were funny all the way through.
And like I said, and at the end, I don't know if you remember, I did switch it up to that story of the car accident, which can hit or miss, right? Because it goes from funny to is this guy serious?
Yeah.
And that was an amazing night for me. And what I find hard is when you're talking to the crowd and you're having a great time and it's real and you're commenting on the things happening, is to then transition into your jokes.
Into your jokes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's hard. You got to find a way to like lead back in and then tell it that way. Ask questions for sure. You know, like if you could think of a question that you could ask them to lead you into, hey, you know, like, hey man, like, you know, it's kind of like camping. You like camping, and then go into a joke about camping.
Yeah. That is great. That was a great night. I'm glad you were there for that night too. And we've had lots of great nights together.
Yeah, man.
For sure.
Yeah.
And
Cobden for sure still stands in my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, we made it work. It was a tough little situation that we went to, but we didn't even think of it as tough.
No.
And then we're in the middle of it and we're watching it, and then people that were just talking and all the noise going on, the people that were focused were the ones that we performed for.
And that's why we did it, right?
Yeah.
That's why you go there and stand in front of a microphone and talk to strangers. It's for nights like that, right?
Yeah.
Challenging ones. Everyone's a different challenge. Everyone is.
And the snowstorm getting there.
The snowstorm was crazy. Yeah.
First snowstorm of the year, and it had to happen on the day that we're going to Cobden.
You're right.
Yeah.
It was the first one of the year, and dudes still showed up with their skidoos. Remember
That's
the guy
right.
in the skidoo
Yeah.
suit sitting up front, only in Cobden.
Yeah.
Well, my brother, that's 1 hour. That was a powerful podcast. Had everything, man. Funniness, serious stuff, tips. Thanks a lot for doing it, man.
Hey, man, anytime.
Yeah, that was great. You're driving somewhere now, far away?
No. Hang out with my daughter at my brother's place. Got a friend in town, and then Tom Green tonight.
That's amazing. I'll be there tomorrow night. You're there tomorrow night too?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm
Awesome.
emceeing tomorrow night.
You're emceeing. Who's emceeing tonight?
I don't know.
At Graham K?
Maybe. I think so.
Yeah.
But I'm doing spots tonight, and then emceeing tomorrow.
Oh, that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool. The guys like Tom Green who made it in all kinds of things, right? Movies.
Yeah.
Like he's a rapper.
He's self-made too. Everything he did on his own. And I mean, if you think about the bigger picture of everything he's done, Jackass wouldn't exist without him.
Mm-hmm.
He was the original, of that genre of comedy.
Yeah.
Physical.
A real original,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
And just did whatever. Didn't care about anything. That's the whole.
I mean, he replaced Letterman for a week. That's a big deal.
That is big.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thanks again, man. That was great. That's
anytime.
an hour. Can you do quick? Can you say, listen to the Hatfield trip? And I'll
Listen to the Hatfield trip, man. It's a fun ride.
Beautiful. That was awesome, Wafik.
Oh, man,
Jeez,
yeah,
that
that
was
was
game changer, man. That was great. Seriously, let it all loose on.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've always prided myself on.